Man, you were quick on that trigger.
Quick trigger today.
Good morning.
I'm in podcast peak phase.
Are you?
So I am quick to the trigger, ready to roll. September 26th. It's a Wednesday. Another rainy Wednesday. Here in Nashville, Seattle's sister, where it's been raining for basically 4 days straight. But hey, this is episode 202?
202.
202 of the Crushing Iron Triathlon Podcast, and we appreciate you joining us today.
My name is Mike, and we're here with Coach Robbie.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a green smoothie in my Crushing Iron Spectator shirt.
Oh, gosh. You have a picture of Rich Roll on the counter?
But I'm drawing my ice bath as we speak.
Oh, gosh.
I thought I would start off by pushing a couple buttons there. No, Rich Roll is
not. Did you have chocolate milk this morning?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Yep.
I'm actually kind of moving away from dairy in general.
Are you now? Well, I mean, from what I hear, chocolate milk is 100% the greatest recovery drink on the planet. Everyone drinks it.
Oh, I know. There's a lot of money to be made by saying that.
It is. That
hey,
and
look,
Gatorade.
I'm from America's Dairyland.
You are.
I have a soft spot in my heart for I don't know.
Cheese?
Cheese. Certainly for cheese. I've never. I was a milk guy growing up, but man, at one day it was just like it flipped the shark on me, man, and just said no more milk. It's gonna be going down your gullet.
Yeah, it's we don't do much milk anymore either. But that's all right.
My friends still drink it. It's kind of weird when we go out to dinner and they order milk. It's just bizarre.
Who? First off, where are you going where you order milk for dinner?
When I go back to Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Literally we'll go out for dinner or lunch or something, and they'll be like, I'll have a tall glass of milk. That just feels so weird to me.
That is, well, it's still weird. Yeah, I don't think it matters where you are. That's a little bit weird.
But, gotta love them staying strong to the heartland.
Tall glass of milk for dinner. So I read somewhere that, this has been a while, but Jim Harbaugh is like a weirdo, and he has milk with his steak.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it was. I think my buddy had a steak, and he ordered a milk. I was like, wow.
What is wrong? Well, Michigan Wolverines are terrible, so I don't have to...
Oh, now, wait a minute.
I mean,
there's a lot of... Hey.
How overrated can they possibly be because they got Jim Harbaugh? They haven't really done anything in the last 4 years.
Oh, for sure. But that doesn't mean...
They're like Notre Dame. Notre Dame could be 0-9, and they'd still be on TV every single Saturday.
Yeah, Michigan's football struggles is probably why Traverse City sold out in the day. People are getting more into triathlon.
Yeah, they don't have anything else to do up there because the Wolverines are terrible.
I don't know, man. They're coming alive. They just beat Nebraska.
Yeah, 0-3 Nebraska.
All right, football talk's over. Don't leave.
Yeah, football talk's over.
The ladies are not.
Yeah, I know.
They're outspoken about that too. But some of the, even the Aussies seem to like it.
Well, yeah, I think it's a learning curve for most of them. But yeah, it's race week for a lot of people, and there's Ironman Maryland on Saturday, Chattanooga on Sunday. And I'm sure there's a lot of other races going on, and then we inching our way closer to another big Saturday Sunday race weekend, which will be 2 weeks from this weekend, and that'll be Ironman World Championships on Saturday, I think the 13th, followed swiftly by Ironman Louisville the next day. It's definitely one of my favorite weekends of the year.
Yeah. Louisville, the real champion race.
Ironman Louisville, the real champions race. Which I got to say, and this is total rumorsville, which I don't like ever.
Oh boy.
I don't like ever traveling down rumorsville because it's usually 100% garbage. But I have heard through the grapevine from people on the ground that there is an uneasiness to feeling assured that Ironman Louisville, the full, will be renewed in 2020.
Oh, there's questions?
There's questions. I think mainly because it hasn't been renewed already, but apparently the mayor or the whatever, whoever's in charge of Louisville, always complains and moans about how much money it costs for the overtime for the police, even though it brings in, millions and millions and millions of dollars for the city.
I saw an insider sheet that said $8 million a year.
And you're complaining about some OT for the cops? Give me a break. I mean, seriously. But that would be incredibly sad for me to see that race go away. I mean, obviously, this isn't, this is all hearsay, but I thought it was really interesting. Some of the best insight that Ken gave was that a lot of times it just really doesn't have
Ken Hammond,
Ken, Ohio 70.3 race director, who puts on just an outstanding race. But he said that so a lot of times it's not the participation or athlete feedback. It's whoever's in charge of the city and whether they get behind the event or don't get behind the event. It can be as might seem small on the scale since they really don't have that much participation in the event, but that could be what changes it all. So hopefully not. Hopefully back. It's a great event. They always have 2,400 plus come, especially now that they've moved the date to a much friendlier October fall date than they did in the Louisville 1.0, which was in August. So hopefully it sticks around. It's a great weekend. And if you're in our closed group, Crushing Iron group, we'll be doing another giveaway like we did last year, and we'll allow everyone to pick their top 3 female finishers and top 3 male finishers in order. And if anyone does that, we'll have a nice little prize for them.
Oh, nice.
No one's done it yet. It's pretty hard to pick all 3 on both sides and pick them in order.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult. And no, all the fanboys, you can't pick Lionel Sanders first, second, and third on the men's side.
There's a lot of them. And if you're not in the closed Facebook group, but you've sent a request, there's a reason. We've been kind of thinking about how to handle it because we'd like to know that you've listened to the podcast. So if you're listening, you can email me at crushingiron@gmail.com or coach at c26coach@gmail.com and let us know that you're a fan of the podcast, because we put a question on there. It's like, what is your favorite thing about the podcast? And if you don't answer it, we're starting to wonder if you've even heard it. And a lot of people are saying they've never heard of the podcast, and we kind of want to at least have people understand what's going on in the group before they get in there a little bit.
We should make sure you're a good fit.
Yeah, good fit.
I mean, I don't feel like that's too much to ask.
I don't either. I noticed that on the request they give us an option to email these people. Should we reach out to them?
Yeah, you can do that.
All right. Maybe I'll reach out to him and see how it's going.
We sent a Facebook message, but no, we'd love to let everyone in there, and I think we know we are always more than likely to let everyone in there. But we have. I feel like we have a really, really great group, and we really try to be as inclusive as we possibly can, but at the same time, I think both you and I agree that we want to keep the tone and the community and the same kind of culture aspect that we have with the people in there as uniform as possible. And while you're always going to end up letting in, not that people are bad apples, but we just don't want it honestly to be like every other triathlete forum where it's 98 pictures of their Garmin selfie and what they did today with water temp questions and stuff like that. Like, humor is great, value is great, but also a place where you can have like a really good conversation and be open and honest about fears or successes and get really good positive feedback with that you get value from. And that's what it is. That's why we, being a little bit, we're not being stingy. We're just being, thorough.
Yeah.
And making sure that we keep the dynamics that way. And I would much rather do it that way and keep it smaller than it's not about letting a billion people in. And so
we're not about scaling.
Yeah. We just like to make sure it's a good fit. And, it's kind of like the same reason that, most athletes, when they reach out to me or to talk about coaching, like most oftentimes, if, they listen to the podcast, it's, we already kind of know we're going to be a good fit usually, because if they've listened to, like, let's say a person's listened to like all 202 episodes, they're about an hour long. That's like 8 days worth of listening to me talk. Which is way too much for anybody. My wife can barely handle me talking for like 8 minutes. But
so the least we can do is let you in the group.
It's right. Exactly.
So,
The least we can do is like let you listen to the group. That's 8 days of talking and at least 7,428 listens. But that if they hear what you say, it's like the longest interview process ever when you don't know who's listening or who's doing the interviewing. But that's how we want the closed group to be too. Is that because we've said this on podcast 200. It takes a special kind of person to make it through quite a few of our podcasts in general, and then kind of like today, if you made it through the first 10 minutes. We're probably going to make it. This relationship is probably going to work.
Yep, I feel good about it. Hey, look, can I go back to that Louisville thing about maybe it's leaving again? And because obviously it's a special race to you, and it is for me too. It's the first one I ever watched and saw friends finish, and then it was this will be my third time up there, and I don't know what we can do, but like. If you're listening to this podcast, if you're going to be at Louisville, can you maybe, just thank business owners, or I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like ways that we can kind of show how appreciative we are for that race, and, you never know what kind of person might be thanked or who is in, I'm just thinking maybe a business owner is kind of anti the race or whatever, but if we can kind of just maybe change the mind or the mindset or something like that, because I think a lot of people up there do love it, but it does, how it gets in people's crawl, but they, if they have to wait traffic and things like that. But
so. But I think
let's let the good overpower the bad sometimes. That's kind of how I'm hoping we can do it. We got a lot of people that listen to this are going to be there, so maybe go out of your way to thank some business owners or police officers or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, do what you would do any other time you find yourself being a guest.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are guests in the city, and they're opening it up and having it, and yeah, I'm sure there's a lot. There is a ton that goes on. So remember that we're guests, and be kind and thankful and appreciative, and always like Linda, especially like customer service wise. Like I haven't been in the hospitality industry for quite a long time myself. Like I always try to go over and beyond like thanking people, and if I get great service, like tell the manager, hey, like I had outstanding service, this is in a great meal. Like stuff like that goes a long way, because customer service in the hospitality industry is the only time you really hear anything and is if someone's unhappy.
Yeah.
You rarely ever get thanked or like, man, this was a really, really great stay. Like I will definitely be back. It's just little things like that, I think, that go a long way just with people and in business in general. But yeah, it's a special race to me. And if I found out for whatever reason it wasn't going to be back, that would change things up quite a bit for me. But we'll send positive vibes. And as it stands now, it's back next year. So that's all we know. And that's all we need to know. So, it'll be back, and we got this week, and big things happen, and you and I are both traveling to Chattanooga. Ironman tomorrow will be on site starting tomorrow. Mike will be on the gram doing all kinds of selfies and vlogs and stories or whatever those are. And I'll be around too.
You're not going to help me on that?
No, I'll help you.
We got to crush the gram this week.
Yeah, I'll be there helping.
Follow us on Instagram. What is it? C26_triathlon.
Yep.
We'll be crushing.
Yeah, so we'll do some videos and stuff. And I am not racing. I'm coming off an injury weeks and weeks ago, so I'll be there in a coaching capacity, which I'm also super excited about. So I'll be available. So if you're there, shoot us a message, come find us, say hello. We love meeting pretty much anyone, all 362 of you who listen to our podcast. We would love to meet you. We would love to meet you all. So please, come up, shake our hands, take a selfie with Mike. I'll give you a hug, and it's great to meet people. So we'll be there. Really pumped, looking forward to it. Chattanooga is a great city and puts on a great race. And then you got also Ironman Maryland, which is a rain fest from what I understand, and half the course is underwater. But hey, it's like that every year.
Yeah. And we don't. I want to reiterate too that it's not that we don't care about Ireland, Maryland and other races, but we're just familiar with. We talk a lot about Chattanooga, Louisville, and Wisconsin because those are really things we know the best, and we'll slowly branch out and get more coverage of some of these other ones. But we're only two dudes sitting around drinking smoothies.
You're drinking smoothies. I'm not drinking smoothies. No, but it's true. Like we like to talk about stuff that we don't know everything. That's for sure.
No,
but we most of the time we like to talk about things that we know the most about. Like anytime I have somebody that listen, I take my bike to a mechanic because I know just enough to be dangerous, and that's a very same way with some handyman stuff around the house. I know just enough to make this problem a lot worse.
Oh yeah.
And so the same could be said for talking about races or strategies we don't really know about. We don't want to put bad information out there about different races or just not know what we're talking about and halfway do it. But we'll look into it. Hopefully it sticks around. From people say it's a good race. I think it always gets mixed reviews, and it's just had really, really bad luck with weather. But anytime I think you're on the East Coast this time of year, you run that risk. So, but good luck to everybody competing this weekend, regardless of the distance or the discipline. We wish you luck, and we love to hear your stories and lessons learned from race day. So let us know.
Mm-hmm.
You got a topic for us today, or do I have to, come through with a winner?
Well, no. I thought we'd talk a little bit about Chattanooga, but I do have a question that I've been wanting to ask you.
Is this personal?
No, it's not. It's what do you think people are most stressed about generally in an Ironman? Which event?
Stressed?
Yeah, the most anxiety.
Honestly, I think it's the bike. I think, I guess let me phrase. I think you look at in a lot of ways, the swim is the anxiety, the bike is the stress, and the run is, for a lot of people, the relief, mental part. Because I think athletes, when they swim, they're anxious because it's the beginning of the race. They might not like the wetsuit. They're worried about making the swim cut off. They just don't like swimming in general. They're worried about panicking. And is that a stress? Sure.
Yeah, okay, right? Anxiety is
anxiety. Yeah, okay. But I don't think it's anxiety. But I think the bike too causes a lot of people anxiety.
I agree with that. Before we get too far into that,
so you don't want my answer. You just want what you want to hear.
No, that's not really the question. That was the preview question to set up the real question.
Oh God.
So I was just thinking about this, but I think you're right. It's the anxiety of the swim, and what we hear a lot about is I think that you just kind of sort of glossed over it, but you said people don't like wearing a wetsuit. But most people, the most people that are afraid, maybe beginners or new or what, I think most people, would you say, would be accurate that they would prefer it be wetsuit if it was a little warmer water?
People wear wetsuits when it's 80 degrees. They'll wait to the very end of the race and still wear a wetsuit. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's my okay. So that's just getting to my question. Is if some of these races, maybe there's maybe the swim is what scares people maybe away. That's on some level. And if the what is it, 76.2 or something to cut off usually.
I believe 76.1. Yeah, so 76.2 or above is when it's not wetsuit legal, but still wetsuit optional.
Yeah, but if it's 75, it's not the water temperature that makes people want the wetsuit, right? It's the buoyancy and the ability to swim and safety kind of concerns. So
it's security / placebo. Yes.
Yeah. So what my main question was, I was thinking about this, is why, if they let people wear wetsuits up to 80 degrees or whatever, legal or not legally, you know what I mean? For safety, anything above that, it's too hot or whatever. Why do they not allow sim shorts?
Up to 80, I believe.
No,
they do.
I mean when it's under 76.1 or whatever.
I believe they do.
They do?
Yeah. I mean, it's less than a wetsuit. I'm fairly confident they do. Yeah.
I meant like if it's not wetsuit legal.
You just said it was under 76, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like above it. Like when it's not wetsuit legal, why don't they just allow swim shorts anyway?
Oh, I don't know. I think I mean, that wouldn't be. That still wouldn't solve the problem for a lot of people. They would still think they would drown and die.
Okay.
In panic. So yeah, I don't think that would solve anything. I mean, I'm not a general fan of the optional part anyway. But
I just think that, like, okay, yeah, maybe it is a little bit of a thing, and as you know, I use them a lot and whatever, and maybe you're not a fan or whatever, but to me, I don't think it's like, anywhere near like a wetsuit or anything like that, you know what I mean? So
no, it's not even close, yeah.
If you're not in swim shape, sim shorts aren't going to make a difference, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that.
So, I mean, it seems to me like a kind of a way to maybe put a little bit more of a security blanket out there for a lot of people or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. And it's, I guess, not even that interesting, but it was to me in the sense of, like, I just don't understand why they're not legal. I mean, in whatever. So...
Bear with us, people. Bear with us.
We just explore...
Yeah, Taper Week Phantom Pains. It's our phantom thoughts and struggles as we try to make it through this podcast.
Yeah. So, do you have a solid topic, or do you want to, like, what's...
more solid than the direction you were going, that's for sure.
Well, hey, it started something. Anxiety and phantom pain.
Yeah. No, I do. I was thinking about this the other day, just... And I do want to say quickly is as much as you and I get for the most part positive feedback via email and thanked via Facebook and stuff like that for the podcast and the topics and the stuff like that. I think it's really, really important to also say that 90% of the time, yeah, I mean, do you and I compete? Yes. Do you and I train? Yes. Have we been living and breathing this for years and years and years? Yes. We have experience, we've gone through things, and we try to share our, experiences and strength, and then, hope in different areas. But I think it has to be said that a lot of times, especially for the content or the thoughts and the lessons or whatever or the stories that I tell, almost every single one of them come from the athletes that I get to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So, they are usually the ones creating so many of the stories and the lessons and the topics and the subjects and however you want to put it. And I'm usually just the one that gets to read the story or deliver it. And so a lot of credit has to go to the athletes on our team for, always being open and sharing stories with me and communicating. And, they're kind of, they're the behind the scenes, like, stage hands that help put a lot of this together without even really knowing it. And so I just wanted to say that real quick in terms of, I had an athlete, last night ask me, what else can he do to help support this and be more, I'm like, dude, like you guys already like do enough. Like, you guys create different scenarios and stories and lessons, positive and or ones that need work and stuff like that. That in turn I get to tell or work through and then give examples of, and that helps. Who knows? A lot of people, because at the same time, like I'll do a podcast every single week, every Monday and Thursday. We do a podcast, and as soon as it's posted, about 3 hours later, I get about 15 to 20 text messages. Are you talking about me?
Yes, we are.
Usually, but this is what I try to get across. If you feel like I was talking to you, then I'm talking to you. Then you needed to hear it. And we joke a lot of time about the horoscope type delivery, but horoscopes work because you usually just find a way to make it applicable to your life. And so if you think we're talking directly to you, we are. If you needed to hear it, then we're happy that we were to be the ones to deliver it. But again, it's huge kudos to the athletes too. But no, the topic I had today was just, as a lot of people are racing, and I've got athletes coming out of races and going into races, that I think it's important to understand how much. And although I do think the word courage is like overused a lot these days, I do think it takes a lot of courage to race. And I think a lot of people, because I work with, and I've worked with in the past, athletes who love to train and are almost not terrified to race, but pretty close to scared to race. Because in training, you can have a bad run and then you get to wake up tomorrow and do it all over again, and make it better. It's your workouts and your training sessions at the maximum for a lot of people run on like a 24-hour cycle. Sometimes it could be as good as I had a bad swim in the morning and then at night, man, I can't believe how much better I felt and I crushed that run.
Ooh, the mysteries.
But racing is so different because you put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
You put yourself out there for yourself, your dreams, your expectations, your goals, all the work you've done for other people to see. And so I think that a lot of times that, when you go into these races with these, it takes courage to race and to put yourself out there because you're not going to be able to do it again for a while. And so it has this like dead end, stoplight, end of the day feeling, like everything else stops. And then we have to start over again. Because that's how so many athletes look at it. And that's why the pressure can be so immense and so great that a lot of athletes underperform, but it also is that huge cause of like anxiety and stress is that they sometimes they just don't want to know even, or they go into like the self-sabotage route. But I just think it's important to note that if you are racing and you're getting up and you're going through the race check-in, you're doing all the things, that it takes courage to do that because you are. We've always said this. It takes a lot of courage and a strong person to put themselves in any kind of situation that shows vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that racing is one of those forms where it shows you put yourself in a vulnerable position because you're putting yourself out there, you're trying to show your fitness, you're trying to see if you've gotten better, and you can't control the conditions, and you've got all these people tracking you, and and it's like it is. But I think that we need to be reminded of that racing, it takes that, and I think people should gain strength from that too, and knowing that not everyone has that feeling. And a lot of people are scared to race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people will hear that you're doing something like an Ironman and just be blown away and think it's the coolest thing ever, but they still don't understand what it means. And to actually go through all that training, I mean, it's just and then there's the pressure of training for whatever, a year, 200 days, whatever you decide to like put your energy towards a big race like this. Yeah, I mean, you've got that whole catalog of work back there and hoping that it shows up on that day. And, you put, like you always talk about the expectations of things and then you mix in this idea that, 15 minutes before the race, you might have a bad stomach or in 10 strokes into the thing, you get hit by something. I mean, there's all these variables that come into play that you can overthink even before the race, and then once you get in it, it's like, oh man, I just lost this or whatever, or I got hit in the swim or something happens, and then all of a sudden that you have to kind of calibrate. And I think the thing is sometimes those things can take your mind off of that outcome goal or whatever, and like take away some stress. Like something happens and it kind of takes your mind away from. It's like you worry about something going to happen, then it happens, then you just face it, and then you go forward. But you're right, it does. I mean, I'll never forget that first time I ever watched an Ironman. I went up to Louisville, and we were watching Kevin, and that was like first come, first serve in the swim start. So we got there at like 5 o'clock, and he was like,
oh, jeez.
he was like 100 deep. And we just stood there for about, I don't know, 2 hours waiting for the race to start. I mean, maybe it was 5:30. I don't know, but it seemed like forever. And I just remember as a spectator and someone who was not even close to being able to participate, how nervous I was about this whole thing, and how, I really was looking at these people like, wow, this is just amazing. I can't even imagine what you're about to do. And I was so afraid to say anything to anybody because I thought I would like jinx their day. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what to say. Like, what do you say to somebody when you're like, they're going to do this? And it's like,
have fun.
Have fun. Good luck. Not good luck. That might be bad luck. I don't know. So it's like, I just think that, it's really hard to also, and then, as I was in it longer, and even that first time I did, when you were up there at Wisconsin and my parents were there and stuff like that, and the nerves that can be rolling through people's bodies, like my dad, who had no idea what I was going to get into, and then he looked at the water that day, and I was kind of pointing out the course, and he was just, I remember his face was just like, what? He just, like, this fear ran over him because he hadn't experienced any of the training or what we go through, and it's a totally different animal if you don't experience the training section.
I think the biggest thing at this race morning is just to do your best to help somebody relax and have fun. Like the serious stuff has already taken place, but there's idle minds and idle bodies are a dangerous thing. And that goes like as a coach, I fear 2 separate 2-week increments, the 2 weeks before the race and the 2 weeks after. Because the 2 weeks before you're tapering, and you've got so much time on your hands that, kind of like we alluded to at the beginning of the podcast, you have those phantom pains that come, or like, I got this weird pain in like my left quadricep kneecap anterior place, and I've never had it before, so I'm thinking, I'm like, dude, just like go run or something. And then you got extra opportunity to look at the weather, and then you feel like you're getting out of shape. It's funny, like after like 4 days of a taper, when you've done like 5-6 weeks of hard training, 4 days seems like an eternity. And you both feel like you're getting slower, but you're like, man, when was the last time I worked out? And you're like, oh crap, 4 days ago I did like my longest ride and run of the year. But you just have that memory, and so you just have time to sit and think, and instead like of looking back, what you should do is look at all of workouts that were great, that you felt good on, or even the ones that you like suffered through, but you made it. But a lot of athletes sometimes will fall into a different category, and they will look at like one workout out of 250 that went bad, and they're like, well, what if I can't do it again? And then I joke with it sometimes, because I think a lot of times, like, and I'm sure this drives the athletes I work with up the wall sometimes, but a lot of times I'll just either obviously give it short and to the point, but I'll keep it light. Like I had an athlete that was doing Louisville a couple weeks ago, and she was like, I freaked out in the water, and a panic attack, and it hadn't happened to me in like 2 years. What am I going to do? And I was like, well, good. I was like, now we got like what, at least another 2 years before it happens again? I think we're good. But it's like, but that should be the mentality you take. Is like it was just a blip. It wasn't something that if it didn't consistently happen, and it's not consistently what you do or how you've done or how you performed or what you felt, then it's more of a blip than it is a trend. Like let's make sure we look and like differentiate between the two. Was it a bad day or a bad 4 months? It was a bad day. Was it a bad race or was it a terrible season? Big difference. But sometimes it's a struggle for athletes to look at it that way. So I think it's important to keep it light and just keep it like come on, let's just like chill out for a minute. And then the 2 weeks post race are always hard too, because I just kind of allow them to kind of chill for, even though it drives them crazy apparently. Have like I've been getting a lot of pushback the last couple of days from athletes that have like at least a week of like, I'll label like unstructured week. Like if you want to work out, go work out. I'm just not going to tell you what to do. And it is not getting good reviews.
They need leadership, man.
It does. It is not. I feel a coup coming on.
I want some accountability in my laziness.
They do. It's just the structure that they crave. It's also like such a huge important part of their life. They feel like they're missing something. But then like the 2 weeks post race, like if you're not having them work out, then their mind's like, well, what am I going to do next year? And then you get like 19 registration email screenshots. But yeah, I mean the 2 week pre-race is usually like when it's time to look back at the good things, not anything that bad happened.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, this happens to me during taper, and I don't know if it happens to, I'm sure it does, because we're all human and we all have similar thoughts, but I start believing that I forget how to swim and stuff. Like if you don't do it a lot, or even, well, there's that saying, right? It's just like riding a bike. You never forget, so you kind of just fear like it just feels so foreign after 4 days off on the bike or something like that. You know what I mean? But it really is just like riding a bike. Once you get in that water and you just start swimming again, your body's like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this. And then it just takes off. So it's like, it is hard to believe that this whole concept of your body healing and rebuilding during taper is a good thing, that hopefully times out perfectly and puts you in the best shape of the season, like the day before the race, or the day of the race. It's hard to trust that, don't you think?
It's really hard because the fact is, you aren't getting more. You are going to lose like the smallest percentage of fitness, but your ability to perform at your race day fitness level is going to be so much higher. And that's what you want. So are you going to get fitter in like a 2 week or a 3 week taper? No, but you're going to get fresher. And it's marrying that. It's marrying your fitness to your ability to be fresh enough to be able to use every bit of that fitness when the day comes. And that's what's so hard for athletes to wrap their brains around sometimes, is that you can be up to an 8 or 9 on your fitness level. But if you haven't tapered long enough, or the right kind of taper, or the one that's right for you, and you're only able to maximize or execute 40% of that, then that's not going to be anywhere close to where you want to be, even if you had like 75% or 7 or 7.5 on the scale intent of your fitness level. But you can do it at 100% and give it everything you've got and just let it go. I'll take that any day of the week. And that's where that phrase like that a lot of people use, and we use it too, is that I'd rather have an athlete come in 100% undertrained than even 1% overtrained. But that's the magic of the taper, but that's also the mystery, because not every taper goes the same. But the biggest thing is rest, especially that last week, is just sleep, and get ready for because Ironman is so different than 70.3s, where it's better to shed fatigue a couple days early if you feel like it's needed, to get ready to give it your all so you can have it all and go above and beyond even what you think you're capable of. Because I think we forget about that sometimes, is that in training, like when you're building up things, like I think we forget as athletes, because it's such a progression, kind of like, I don't remember who it was. I think it was, another athlete I was talking to was like, it's kind of like when you go on like a diet, and you don't see it yourself in the mirror. But then you like go see somebody you haven't seen for like a month, and they're like, "Dude, you've lost some weight," and you're like, "Really?" You know, because you've progressed like losing like such small little increments or percentages each day that you don't even see it, not even in the mirror. But you go see somebody you haven't seen in a month, and they're like, "Dang, man, you looking good in those, $190
cargo shorts."
Cargo shorts with pockets everywhere.
Need some add some weight to those pockets.
That's right. But in the same breath, like athletes totally 100% forget that at one point in training, not in just at one point, but for a lot of athletes, like if it's their first time, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times, they've done a distance or a time or a duration or a pace that they've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
They've done their longest run ever, longest ride ever, longest swim ever, fastest pace ever. They've done all these firsts in training by doing it gradually and still under fatigue. And then they come to race day and it's like we just like immediately forget that. And that's why like, I'm not a huge fan of doing the distance thing in training, but like because it's not necessary. Because you do all these things, you do them harder and longer and more frequent with less rest, and you keep inching it up to hour run, hour and 15 run, hour and 20 run, hour and a half run, hour and 45, 2 hours, 220, and then you keep getting fitter. You just don't like your body just doesn't like. All right, that's it. That's my ceiling. Because you did it all under fatigue and you did it all tired, but you have this huge list of firsts to prepare yourself for that one first. For a lot of people, that first could be a finish, that first could be a PR or whatever it is, but it's preparing your body, and then you prepared your body by going through all those firsts, and you're forcing your body to adapt to a new load that's going to keep increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing. And then you tell it, now that you're going to increase your ability to absorb this energy and this demand and this effort and this pounding, you're going to adapt to it. And now what I'm going to do is once you've adapted to it, now I'm going to rest you a little bit. And now when I come back to you, we're going to go after something we've never gone after before. Or we're going to go after it faster than ever before. And your body's going to be like, dude, this is nothing. But it's hard for athletes, I think, to take a grasp of that like progression, which is so oftentimes why you see like the obsession of swimming the distance. Like, I'm going to swim 2.4 miles nonstop because I have to. No, you don't. I have to bike 112 miles straight, all zone 2 because I have to. No, you don't. Or the same for I need to run a marathon first. No, you don't. But you forget all those things in taper that go out the window, and you just you forget. It's just how crazy, how short the memory is that we have as athletes of all the things that we've done throughout the course of the year, and even like last week. You feel like you're getting out of shape, and then you look 4 days before, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I just did like my longest, greatest ride of the year 4 days ago. How am I out of shape again?
Yeah.
Because athletes too forget that like seasons end, quote unquote, but your body doesn't stop adapting. Because like that's how athletes look at it so many times. Like they do like their last race of the year, and then they act like it's a total dead end and their body stops. Like newsflash, let's say you just did Augusta 70.3 and it's now been 3 days. Guess what? Even though you haven't been doing much, you're probably today in the best shape of your life. Mm-hmm. Because you went through this really hard, excruciating, challenging, and demanding training day. Even though it was a race, because it was timed and you had goals and it was an event and it was a race, it was still a huge training day. And then your body, guess what? It adapts. It gets ready. But so many people think, I don't want to lose all my. I'm like, dude, you didn't lose training. You actually just got faster.
Yeah.
Which is like another reason why you should keep, training. But
yeah. Well, I've talked about that before, but I still think that one of the best things I did, and it was a little risky for me because I did a half, maybe about a month out from Wisconsin that year, over at Lake Logan. It was about a month or so. And what happened was
6 weeks.
I didn't really like necessarily leave it all on the course at Lake Logan for that half, but I raced it hard, and I just got right back into it, as hard as it seemed at the time, and I felt like that was like a huge jump that next week for me. Like over the next 10 days or whatever, I really made a solid jump, and it was just because, like you said, man, it was a huge training day, and I recovered, probably with some swimming and some easy cycling on the next couple of days, and I just got right back into it, and it was like it was sort of that catapult thing, man. That's why it's so, and I know it's difficult after a full sometimes, but you're right. I mean, I think that if you can just kind of keep moving and keep active after these races, you really can benefit in a major way. And the other thing I had a thought about with doing the distance, and I know that it is difficult to understand and everything like that, but I don't know about you, but after a full Ironman, I am absolutely destroyed,
Yeah,
and
sure.
like 10 times worse than any, like, I get sore and beat up during some of these workouts, but after an Ironman, it's like a way different feeling. So, like, just logically, it makes sense that you wouldn't want to go just throw that in just to prove that you can do it earlier, a few weeks out or whatever, just because. And I just really like how you structure things so that, you kind of cover that distance maybe over three or 4 days, like with very little recovery and just hard efforts, and, stacking different multiple runs during a day or whatever the case may be, but over the course of 3 or 4 days. Then, if you can kind of look at it like that, then you can start to gain that confidence and belief, like, oh, I didn't have a lot of rest, I had some rest, but this should be proof right here that you're in shape to do that. And if you're feeling good, if you have like that, like you're saying, that freshness on top of that's just such an underrated part, is this, that we're doing all this work in training on fatigue. Usually there's fatigue legs and stuff like that, and people, I mean, even I can't grasp it, but if you go out and ride 100 miles on Saturday and then run, for 2.5 hours on Sunday, that's like, you're running pretty fatigued, and if you feel.
Yeah, and it's also like that's a great point. It's also like what you're trying to get out of the workout.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't mean this like, well, there's so much more to doing your long ride than just practicing going the same speed for longer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the point isn't I'm a 17 mile an hour rider. So it's going to take me, I don't know, I'm just throwing out a number, 6.5 hours to do 112 miles. So I'm just going to practice for the next 4 months on riding 17 miles an hour up into the distance. Like, is the distance important? Yeah, because you got to cover it. But the point's also to get faster over the distance. Like, what's going to be more fun, 17 miles an hour for 6.5 or 18.5 for 6? Now you're off the bike 30 minutes, faster. But it's also so much like what you do, and that's why I'm, outside of like one ride here and there or like a complimentary back-to-back ride, why I'm such a huge fan of throwing in efforts and hard work in these long rides, because it's about what you get out of them, not always about just covering the distance. Like, to give an example, I have an athlete that's doing Chattanooga, and let's see, he did a 95-mile ride in 5 hours on August 26th, and his training stress score was 221. Meaning, if you've listened, we've gone over training stress score before, but that's basically the effective stress it has in your body if it's taken into account heart rate or power. And so, like, for example, an hour easy run might have a 60 points of a training stress score, but a 40-minute really, really hard run might have like 95. You see what I'm saying? So, like, it's about what you get out of them. So his TSS, his training stress score for this 5-hour ride, which he covered 95 miles, was 221. Well, if you go to, and then he had one the following week that was 101 miles at over 5 hours at 256. But then if you go to September 15th, he was under 5 hours by 5 minutes, but his training stress score was 288.
Wow.
So about 50 to 60 more than any other ride. But he had a lot of hard work in there. So there's just so much to take into account. And it was without taper or without a day, without days off. It was under fatigue. So you do that ride, and your body's going to say, all right, I got to compensate because guess what? I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do this again. So I got to get bigger and faster and stronger and more fit. And so while your body's doing that, preparing for that, you're preparing your body to be the freshest it's ever been to use up that fitness. And again, that's why the taper is such like a delicate balance of not getting too stale or not getting, you would always, it's such a different animal than a 70.3 taper in terms of like being sharp and keeping tension in your body. With the Ironman, for most athletes, it's such a long day that it's better to play it safe than sorry. But it's also dependent on the course. What are the course demands? Is it a really hard run? Is it an easy swim? Is it a super hard bike? Like there's so many interchangeables throughout courses and abilities, but the biggest kind of underlying theme is like trust your training, rest as much as you can, and as I told Dave Cravata, sharpen the sword, just don't use it. Is the biggest, as I told him, because a lot of athletes struggle with this. They get in the best shape of their life, and they're on like cloud 9, and now you're telling them to not to do less for 3 weeks, or 2 weeks. It's like you're chaining them up. And I said, listen, man, this is going to be the hardest. Now comes the hardest part, the taper. And I just said, the point now is to sharpen the sword, not swing it. Because that's all tapering should be, sharpening the sword to use it on race day, not a day before, not striking matches, just don't burn anything, just get as fresh as you possibly can to swing it when you need it. But that's also why it's so hard mentally, emotionally, and physically.
I like that. I think we can end on that. Sharpen the sword, just don't use it.
Yeah, sharpen the sword, just don't use it.
Because that is the magic and the mystery of the taper.
Dum dum dum.
Dun, dun, dun.
Join us again next Tuesday for the rest of the story. Come see us in Chattanooga. We'll be back Monday with some, I'm sure, more awesome recaps and news and notes and stories. And if you're listening, we hope to meet you. But yeah, if you're tapering or if you're peaking, just get ready, sharpen the sword, don't use it. And if you do use it, obviously don't use it on anybody else. And trust yourself. It's always good to go back and look. Count your hours you've done in the last year, all for this one day. All the sessions you've done, and just see how rested and prepared you really are to go out and give it your best. Because I know we're closing here, but the last thing you want to do is get to a point in a race where you have because you're going to get to a point in any race where the mental and emotional side have to take over because physically you're in so much pain. So you have to have this almost out of body experience of either gratitude or your why or whatever it is to take you further than you've ever gone and through the pain. But if that comes at mile 2 of the run, you're in trouble. But you also, when it does come, you want to be able to run with it. And if you've torched yourself in the taper or in training and you won't be able to use it, then a gratitude walk is not near as fun as a gratitude run. I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. So just be prepared, stay fresh, have fun, relax, enjoy the moment, appreciate the fact that you got there, and If you have any other questions or comments, you can always email Mike directly, crushingiron@gmail.com. You can email me as well, c26coach@gmail.com. And you can always check out all things on our website, from the blog, coaching, training, all the fun stuff is all there for you to consume. And if we don't see you in Chattanooga, we'll talk to you on Monday.
Yes. And if you're digging the podcast, if you're new to it, if you're old to it, and want to help us out, support us a little bit, you can go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/crushingiron, and we have a couple of tiers on there. We have a $3.26 a month tier, along with a $13.26 a month. And it's real easy to kind of just, give us a few bucks a month or whatever, and thank us and support us and keep the podcast going and energized. And we're going to keep going. But, we put out quite a bit of information with these, and the videos and blog posts and all kinds of other stuff. So, and we want to give you everything we can give you, and we're free with our information. So any support you want to give us would be awesome. You can also help us through the Crushing Iron store, which has some logo t-shirts and our spectator shirt on sale right now. We're going to be adding more stuff to that, but we don't make a ton on that, but it's a good way to give us a little boost and get something for it. So,
well said, my friend.
Thank you. And we also have Coach Robbie's doing swim analysis all the time, if that's one of your things, and check out our coaching on the website. We have prices up there and all the information and feedback and philosophy and all kinds of stuff like that. It's all at crushingiron.com. Again, we will see you in Chattanooga tomorrow.
See you later.
All right. Thanks for checking in. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and keep spreading the good word.